When we think of modern medicine, the image that usually comes to mind is an immaculately clean laboratory. White coats, glowing synthetic compounds, and brilliant human engineers building life-saving drugs atom by atom from scratch. The reality is far less sterile. Some of our most important pharmaceutical breakthroughs didn't originate in a beaker. They were pulled from the dirt, from wild forests, and from the deep ocean. That distinction becomes highly relevant when we look at one of the hardest problems in medicine, figuring out how to cure incredibly complex threats, like infectious viral diseases. To figure out how we survive the next wave of biological threats, we actually have to stop looking at what humans can engineer and start looking at the microscopic, ancient chemical warfare happening right beneath our feet every single day. Infectious viruses represent one of the single most difficult, complex challenges in the entire history of modern pharmacology. This diagram shows a viral invasion. Viruses aren't independent life forms. To multiply, they must physically hijack the cellular machinery of a human host. Because the virus becomes so deeply integrated, destroying it chemically almost always means destroying the essential human cell it lives inside. Because of this parasitic integration, viruses have successfully resisted therapeutic cures longer than almost any other form of life. When researchers try to design a purely synthetic chemical to solve this problem from a blank slate, they consistently hit dead ends. The math is simply too complex. Instead of trying to invent a completely novel answer, science takes a different approach. We copy the homework of organisms that have been fighting and winning these exact biological wars for millions of years. We have to leave the lab and look at wild environments like dense forests, nutrient-rich soils, and the ocean floor. These environments are packed with stationary life forms that produce secondary metabolites, specialized chemical compounds synthesized for defense. Plants, fungi, and sea sponges can't run from infections, so they evolved into chemical weapons factories, engineering compounds that precisely target invaders while leaving their tissue intact. The natural world has been running continuous, lethal clinical trials on these compounds for millions of years. Those eons of survival strategies have naturally engineered the exact level of precision required to kill a pathogen without harming the host, the exact mechanism human medicine needs for complex diseases. The scale of this borrowing is massive. According to the Scripps Research Institute, roughly 50% of all of today's pharmaceutical drugs are derived directly from natural origins. This graphic breaks down the biological sources of several major drugs. In oncology, the reliance on nature is huge. 83% of FDA-approved small molecule anti-cancer drugs are inspired by or derived from natural compounds. We see this pattern everywhere. Penicillin, our definitive antibiotic, was isolated straight from fungi. For cardiovascular issues, we rely on digitoxin, a compound sourced directly from the toxic defense mechanisms of the foxglove plant. For severe pain, we use morphine, extracted from the natural defense compounds found in poppies. Even when we go back to that impossibly hard bottleneck of viral infections, the pattern holds. Essential antiviral treatments like acyclovir rely on molecular structures modeled directly off a parent compound found in a Caribbean sea sponge. Across every major health threat, human scientists rarely start from scratch. We act as translators and refiners of nature's biological blueprints. Modern pharmacology relies heavily on biological translation. We find a wild defense mechanism, adapt it, and ensure it safely interfaces with human biology. Despite all of our computing power, our single most effective strategy for fighting uncurable diseases remains looking outward into the natural world. Global biodiversity serves as the oldest, most extensively tested pharmaceutical library on Earth. The stakes here are highly practical. Every time a species goes extinct, humanity permanently loses access to a unique chemical blueprint that took millions of years to evolve. Preserving biodiversity secures the chemical weapons we will need to fight the next great pandemic or cure the next complex disease.